Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope. I have to start this episode off with addressing something I said last week. I messed up. I'm not what did I say last week? That I'm a Sag Sun Leo rising. That's not true. I am a Leo Sun Sag rising. A lot of people corrected me. It's funny. I totally messed up my own birth chart, which is like something I would totally never do. But anyway, yeah, I'm a Leo Sun Sag rising, Libra moon, not, what did I say? Sag Sun Leo rising? Yeah, not the case. So sorry to disappoint some of you, but anyway, let's go ahead and get started straight with this week. Let's go ahead and pull up the list here. Guys, this is not a big week, really, to be honest with you. The biggest thing is Mars is going to sextile Neptune. Venus is going to sextile Neptune. Mercury does leave shadow, which is really, really exciting. And it's going to square Uranus, which isn't exciting, but it's something. And then the only other highlight I have is this is actually a lunar transit that I have highlighted. The big thing that we're really going to talk about is look at this list for next week. Next week has a lot going on. So what that means for this week is this week, if we were going to analogize things like a movie, this week is, right before the climax of a movie, right? There's usually a montage. There's usually a music montage where people are kind of getting ready and things are building up. But then in between the montage and the climax, there's always like the scene where the main character finds out something or learns something. And there's this moment, what you could even say like the calm before the storm. That's what this week is. Next week has so much shit going on. It's crazy. Versus this week has almost nothing. Like there's literally almost nothing going on this week. Like a Mars and Venus sextile to Neptune in my book is pretty much nothing. I mean, let's just go ahead and start talking about it. So anyway, we start Monday off with the moon ingressing into Scorpio, immediately making a trine to the sun in Pisces. Now, I usually don't typically talk about the moon making an aspect to the sun, but it's a little bit different when we've had like 3 or 4 months of everything in either like Scorpio and then Aquarius and Capricorn. I feel like the Pisces stuff is like, hey, let's, it's kind of uplifting after a couple months of hardcore transits, right? But the moon's going to go into Scorpio, make that trine to the sun, which sounds a little bit uplifting at the very minimum. And then the moon is going to be making a square to Mercury all day long as it then goes opposite Uranus and then it trines Jupiter. So Monday kind of has a lot of lunar transits. Now, you guys know me. I talk a lot about the moon and our emotions and how we feel about things. Emotions drive everything, right? And so it's just going to be really important to check in with your emotions at this time because the moon's going to be in Scorpio. The moon is fallen in Scorpio. The way I like to think of the moon in Scorpio is, have you ever leaned back in a chair? I can't speak into the microphone and do this at the same time. But have you ever leaned back in a chair far enough to where you lose your center of balance and you feel like you're gonna fall? Like that's the moon in Scorpio. That guttural like panic feeling almost, right? That's always what I've related to the moon in Scorpio, right? There's this emotional sense of insecurity that's very present and very alive. But as the moon ingresses into Scorpio and it trines the sun in Pisces, I don't necessarily think that's the case at this moment. As the sun goes into Pisces, there is going to be this sense of all right, we're getting out of winter. We're slowly getting into spring. The sun, which is about our vitality, our ego, our energy, as it's in Pisces, we're starting to loosen up a little bit, getting out of that Capricorn and Aquarius energy. But as the moon in Scorpio trines the sun in Pisces, this is, again, everything's a two-way street. One way to look at this is if you are really committed to what you're doing, I think this is only going to double down on that. However, if you are open to changing things, if you're looking to go deeper, getting to that emotional side of the water signs here, with Jupiter in Pisces and the sun in Pisces, and we're looking for, alternative ways to, we're looking to, change our beliefs. We're looking to, learn more, grow more. Now that everything's kind of out of Aquarius, where it was much more about stabilizing things, Pisces is much more about adaptation and changing. As the sun's in there, Jupiter's in there, we're kind of looking at this area a little bit different. As the moon goes into Scorpio and trines all this stuff, there's this kind of this is the change I needed, right? It's the moon in Scorpio trining sun in Pisces is kind of it's funny. I think Pisces and Scorpio are out of all the signs that are compatible the most, I fucking love Pisces and Scorpios together, which I feel would be the last thing you would hear from me. But there's something about the absolute craziness of both of them that just works really well together. And so I look at this moon in Scorpio, trying just the sun as we go into the week is kind of like, hey, let's, emotionally check in. Moon in Scorpio is very emotionally committed to what you're kind of doing. Your emotions are very involved, but that sun in Pisces is, open to changing, open to, going with the flow of things. Well, for example, when the sun's in Aquarius and the moon's in Scorpio, it's like, your emotions are negative and there's nothing you can do to get out of them. You're just kind of stuck in them versus this is like, you might be kind of angry or irritated at first for a second, but it's going to be easy to change. Sorry, I had to take off my jacket. If you ever record video, just know it's always too hot when you are trying to record when you have a jacket on, but it's always too cold when you don't have a jacket on. For whatever reason, it just always works that way. But anyway, so Monday, moon goes into Scorpio, yada, yada, yada. Moon though, after it goes into Scorpio and trines the sun, the biggest thing is it kind of has a few different transits. The first thing is going to be it squares Mercury in Aquarius, where although the sun's in Pisces and I feel like our egos aren't attached to a lot, that moon in Scorpio squaring Mercury in Aquarius is like, again, you kind of have to emotionally detach a lot from conversations that have to happen. Mercury has triplicity in Aquarius. Mercury rules technology. Aquarius is going to rule technology. There's a sort of... you have to look at a lot of things through an unemotional lens, right? Through a very dry Saturnian lens. And I think this moon in Scorpio squaring Mercury in Aquarius is very like, facts don't care about your feelings. I know I hate fucking saying that, but it's very true. And I think this moon in Scorpio squaring Mercury in Aquarius is that it's not like facts don't care about your feelings and you're just gonna have to move on. The moon's in the superior position here, where even though you might be wrong about a situation or you might have to change your mind about a situation, that moon in Scorpio is not going to make it easy to do that, right? Moon in Scorpio squaring Mercury, of course, is like, but I feel this way, but this, but that. And it's just going to be hard to translate or communicate your feelings with other people because Mercury in Aquarius is very like, detached from the situation, looking at things through a very cold analytical perspective. And that moon in Scorpio is like, again, very but. And then that leads to the moon. After the moon makes this square to Mercury, this is again like a little bit later on in the day here. The moon is then going to go opposite Uranus for the most part all day long. Now, while this is going on, again, this is why I brought up this list here. So the moon is going to be squaring Mercury, and then it'll go opposite Uranus, and then it will trine Jupiter. Now, I kind of consider the moon trining Jupiter like all day long, to be honest with you, simply because Jupiter is a visible planet and Uranus is not. But I think as this moon goes opposite Uranus, right? A couple months ago, we talked a lot about how the moon would first make an opposition to Uranus, then immediately square Saturn. And that's not the case anymore. The moon will make this opposition to Uranus where there is this sense of, instability. Now with the moon in Scorpio, the biggest thing is for you to not react, for you to not, like for example, like Scorpio rules my 12th house of self-sabotage since I'm a Sag rising, right? And that moon in Scorpio, it's like for me, my biggest challenge is like not getting overwhelmed with like the fear or the paranoia and not, like the moon in Scorpio squaring Uranus and Taurus is, opposite Uranus and Taurus is, have you ever felt like something wasn't done well enough, and then you kind of overdo it to where you just kind of ruin it? For example, trimming my beard. If you go a little bit too up on a beard, it looks awful, and you have to know when to stop, right? And I think this moon in Scorpio opposite Uranus is like, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because this moon in Scorpio, first it's going to be squaring Mercury where there's this kind of like resistance, and then it'll go opposite Uranus where like you don't want to kick shit off, you don't want to rock the boat too much. Just don't make stupid decisions. Moon in Scorpio, don't make decisions based off pain. Don't make decisions based off hurt. Especially too, don't throw everything up just because of that, right? I think the moon, after it goes opposite Uranus, there's going to be this, especially to the moon in Scorpio is like what we're emotionally holding on to. It's like we hold on to that pain. We hold on to that, to the past. We hold on to, those things that emotionally validate us, right? And that moon opposite Uranus is there's going to be this, I feel like, opportunity to let that go. Now, that might not necessarily mean like, oh, you're going to let it go and everything's fine. It might be like you might have an opportunity as a breakthrough moment, right? To get over something, to really to really change something here. And I think as the moon goes opposite Uranus, it's kind of like that snap. And then the moon trines Jupiter, where this moon in Scorpio, with the South Node in Scorpio, trining Jupiter in Pisces, there's a lot of just like relinquishing. There's a lot of surrendering. There's a lot of just like, it's just one of those things. I think a lot about. I was in a lot of personal development programs a couple years ago, and I think about this one I did, where, long story short, we had to make contracts where we went over, like, let's say, like, for me, I'll tell you guys my contract, because at the time none of this was true, and I didn't have any control over what this contract was. My teammates, who I was a part of this, created this contract for me, and the contract was, I am a wealthy, trusting, focused man, actively contributing my valuable self to the world now. Now, that was a contract that I had to live up to. At that time, that was not real for me. Now I look at my life, and that contract's very real for me. But when you are given something, for example, if you've never believed in yourself, if you've never done anything that's shown yourself that you can do something, right, there's a lot of resistance that you face, right? If you've told yourself that you're unworthy your whole life, if you've told yourself that you're not good enough your whole life, and you've reinforced those beliefs, there is a really hard road that you are going to go down when it comes to, because you're going to overcome all of that stuff, and you're going to have to get over it at some point. And there's going to be this part where you resist, right? The story you've told the story you've told yourself of the pain and the suffering and the whys, that has validated all of these stories you made up about yourself. Like, for me, I was not a wealthy man. I was not trusting. I was not focused. I wasn't any of those things. And I resisted it. And it came up through regression. It came up through self-sabotage. But there's a point where you have to kind of let yourself surrender to this new thing, right? I can hold on to my victim story, and I can hold on to my pain as long as I want, but that just hurts me at the end of the day, right? The people that hurt me, when I hold on to that pain that they've caused me, that doesn't affect them at all. It just hurts me. And so when we have this moon in Scorpio going opposite Uranus, trining Jupiter, and slowly coming up towards that south node, you can resist this all day long, but we're going to still be here. I bring up that personal development story because there's 3 major weekends where all of this stuff kind of happened. And I remember the first weekend we had one of our teammates I think her contract was like, she is a beautiful, worthy, lovable woman, whatever. And I mean, we were there for a couple hours. Like, she was being like, no, that is not true. That is not who I am. Fuck you guys. I'm not going to be that shit. I mean, she was just losing it over this. And we were just trying to say, like, you are a beautiful, trusting, loving woman type stuff. And there's going to be this resistance, right? That's that moon in Scorpio. It's so easy to hold on to the pain and shit. But as that moon starts to trine Jupiter and starts to get over to that south node, like, you've got to surrender to that bigger picture. You've got to relinquish that pain. You've got to, like, get the fuck over it, honestly. And that's not easy. That's not difficult. But I look at this moon opposite Uranus where the decision might be already laid out for you. It's one of those things where you're going to have to get over it, right? Because otherwise it's just going to be too visceral. So on Monday, as the moon goes opposite Uranus, it's an opportunity for a breakthrough. It's an opportunity to do something different. And there might be a lot of resistance, but I look at this moon trining Jupiter all day. It's like, man, look at the bigger picture here. This south node is in Scorpio. It's like, let that shit go. Like, it's fucking old. It's over. Let's move on. And this is something that we're going to keep talking about. Because as we go into Tuesday, that moon's going to be making an application to Saturn. It's going to be squaring Saturn for the most part of the day. And then the moon is going to be sextiling Mars and Venus. So we're still kind of in the Monday energy a little bit. The moon's still in Scorpio. Let's actually fast forward here a little bit. So we get to Tuesday morning here, the moon's going to be making this square to Saturn. So again, the moon will make that opposition to Uranus and then trine Jupiter. But after it trines Jupiter, it will then square Saturn, where there is this resistance that's being faced. Again, let's talk about the moon in Scorpio squaring Mercury in Aquarius on Monday, where it was like, you might emotionally feel some way, but trying to communicate that for example, this personal development thing that was on, it was a team project. And in that group, you had to be a team player. You were either voted team player or not team player, which was saying that to people's faces is really interesting. In this moon in Scorpio, there'd be times where people would, have excuses. They wouldn't be able to do X or do Y because of whatever's going on in their life. But there was 25 other players in this team where we were getting rid of our excuses. And we had for example, in this program, you were not allowed to say but, try, or can't. I'm not even going to explain why. Most of you should be able to figure it out. But if you said but, try, or can't, you had to pay that. So it was like you had to pay into this like fun thing, $2 for every but, $3 for every try, and $5 for every can't you said. And there were people that were like, I just can't afford my BTCs. And they would come up with all of these excuses as to why they can't, pay the money in, or, they would say that they only said it this amount of times, but they actually said it more. But there was this one guy I played with. His name was Oridan. Oridan had, I'll put it to you this way. This man had more excuses than anyone I had ever met in my life, and he was more integral than anybody I met in my life. And that dude hustled in the fucking streets to pay for. This dude did not have a job. This dude did not have anything going for him. He just got out of a fucking cult, pretty much. He was pretty much, him and his family were kicked out of the LDS shit. He was trying to do this personal development stuff. He had nothing to his name, but he worked his ass off to make sure he, kept these BTCs, to make sure he kept it with an integrity of himself and paid what he knew he had to pay. The reason I'm bringing the story up is when I think about Ordan, I think about not having a fucking excuse. And when you're on a team and a team is counting on you, there are no excuses. And I look at this moon in Scorpio squaring Saturn and Aquarius is like, I don't care what you're feeling. This moon squaring Saturn is definitely like, you might feel a little bit pain. You might feel like you're in the hot seat, but like it's squaring Saturn and Aquarius. Like there's definitely this, having to negotiate your feelings, your pain, your whatever with the group dynamic, with the team involved. And I look at Saturn and Aquarius now as kind of like, hey, this isn't just about you, it's about everyone here. But also this moon in Scorpio is like, just because you're hurt, just because again, well, there is things that, when you're in this team setting, you have to, again, you're either being a team player or you're not being a team player. And I look at this moon in Scorpio squaring Saturn and Aquarius is like, are you being a team player? And I want you to ask yourself what that really means for you, right? This Saturn and Aquarius, clearly this whole fucking world is divided on every little tiny front. And of course that can manifest itself into a literal way, when it comes to the stuff that we're dealing with nowadays. But on a personal level, I want you to ask, where are you getting in your own way? Moon in Scorpio squaring Saturn and Aquarius. Where are you kind of resisting that? You know what I mean? And there's this part of it too where Moon in Scorpio, like for example, I got kicked off the team because I didn't live up to my commitments. And I had to pay a price for that, right? I was very hurt. I was very emotional about it, but I didn't have a fucking choice because my team voted me off, right? That was a big fucking thing for me. I learned a lot about being a player or not team player. And, here I am. I had all my victim stories and all my excuses. And, I had to get kind of over that stuff. I'm just sharing the story because I look at this as like, there's so many, we have every reason in the book to be hurt. We have every reason in the book to, have to be resentful, to have pain. But like moon squaring Saturn and Aquarius, you could sit here and get mad all day long, but unless you're channeling that into something constructive, it's doing more harm than it is good. It really is. So, I guess just be aware. I think at the same time, though, that this is going on here on Tuesdays, the moon is going to be making the sextile to Mars and Venus in Capricorn. Now, as the moon's making the sextile to Mars and Venus, it's like moon square Saturn. It's like, yeah, you're going to get some feedback and it's going to be a little harsh. It's not always fair. But then that moon makes the sextile to Mars and Venus. We know that we can work through this stuff, right? Mars and Venus have been together in Capricorn for quite some time. We're talking literally since November. Venus has been in shadow since November of 2021, and we're almost to March. So we've had Venus retrograde in Capricorn, the way that we play the rules, the way that we discipline ourselves, the boundaries that we have, it's all different. Mars and Venus have been going direct, and we've been applying this in a new way in our lives. And I think as this moon's in Scorpio, it's like, okay, apply what that works, right? Just because you're, for example, with athletes, that moon square Saturn is like, even if you practice every day, you're still going to have your issues, and you're going to see that on Tuesday. But then it's also like, what's the solution to that? More practice. What's the solution to that? Working harder. What's the solution to that? Being more specific. Like, again, I look at this moon in Scorpio, sextiling Mars and Venus in Capricorn. It's like, do the work that's going to get you out of that emotional negative state. Do Mars and Venus in Capricorn, right? Whatever, again, some people, this is your first house of your personality. Some people, this is 7th house of relationships. It's kind of hard to always gauge this. I just look at this moon in Scorpio, sextiling Mars and Venus. It's just like, Scorpio and Capricorn stuff is, it's easy to get over things when you are busy. On my Instagram, I've been posting how I do my morning workout like first thing in the morning. Like today was like 5 a.m. And I'm telling you, it's much easier to have a really good day and to not let negative things affect you when you start your day off doing positive things. And this moon in Scorpio, like idle hands are the devil's workshop. And this moon in Scorpio, Mars and Venus in Capricorn is like, do the work, get your mind off of it. Do the work. You know what it takes to get the results that you're kind of looking for. You just have to invest in it. And that moon in Scorpio is like, literally this morning, I was so fucking pissed off. Like I literally woke up like first thing at like 4 a.m. pissed, and I just went to work out and I got a great workout in because of it. And it's just one of those things where you have to understand where to really utilize this energy. And I really think this is like, you're going to have this harsh feedback, but channel it into something productive. We still have this Mars Venus stuff going on, guys. So anyway, moving on here, we get to Wednesday. Moon's going to conjoin the South Node right before it goes into Sagittarius, where I'll be applying to the sextile with Mercury all day long. Then we have the Mars Neptune sextile. Here's the thing. Let's go ahead and go into this. We wake up, really. It's like first thing in the morning, 11:30 here, Pacific Standard Time. The moon's going to be conjoining the South Node. Let it go. There's like, I don't know. Have you ever just kind of like, this is something I've realized growing up, is there were just so many things that I was like very frustrated with and very like mad about. And I don't know, as I get older, the more stuff is just like, you know what? That hurt. It harms me more to hold on to that pain and to hold on to that victim story. Actually, I want to talk about victimization here for just a minute, because it's really frustrating when you see online how everyone, like a couple years ago, if you would have told people, oh, you know, don't be a victim, everyone gets all mad of like, oh my gosh, like, how could you say that? You know, I was a victim of this and blah, 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 blah. And people don't understand, like, yeah, you can be a victim of something. It happens all the time. Like most people are a victim of usually some type of like tragedy or something when you get to like really know them. But there is the story that you tell yourself about it. And then there's the event that happened, right? And this moon, like there is a story I used to tell myself all the time that I would like, well, again, it's all about time heals all wounds. And I think as things move on, you start to change that perspective, and maybe the emotions that were there aren't there as much anymore. And I just look at this moon conjoining the South Node in Scorpio. And this is something that we're going to see time and time again as we have more and more conjunctions to the South Node in Scorpio, is just what is the event that happened and what is the story you tell yourself about it? And do you put yourself as the victim in that story, or do you make yourself responsible for your, like, you know, bad shit happens to me. Like I can go all day long about my victim story and why, you know, life wasn't good for me, but I don't do that because that's not good for me. I need to tell myself why I'm better than that, why I can overcome things, because that's what's going to help me progress in my life. And me, you know, telling my victim story and believing that and acting on it, like right? Like my victim, like it's so easy to regress when you just only play out your victim story. If you were a victim of something, that is true and that is valid. But the story and the narrative you tell yourself behind it is either going to harm you more or help you. And that is a personal decision. And that is your responsibility, not anybody else's. And this moon on the South Node in Scorpio is a great opportunity to let that shit go. That pain, that resentment. Scorpio also rules what's hidden, what people don't always see. Maybe you don't always see it, right? In society, we're not allowed to be angry at things. Well, it's, you know, unpolite to be angry. It's negative energy, but then they'll give you something to be angry about. And then, you know, I see people like, so many people think that they're mad at what the media is telling them to be mad about. They're not mad at that. They're mad at, you know, economic conditions. They're mad at, you know, their parents not loving them or abandoning them. They're mad at everything else. But, you know, the media and society gives people something to be mad at. And I want you to check your anger and exactly where you are applying it, why you're applying it that way. Like, you know, when I see people like attack other people all the time, like online, it's like, you're not even mad at that person. You're mad at other things, but you're letting that energy get to you. I just look at this moon in Scorpio South Node. It's like, again, when you're angry and upset about something, it's harming you more than it's harming the other person. And you're giving that your energy away from it. And I think this is a great opportunity to move on from it. And I could go on and on about that but we need to move on. The moon's going to go, then the moon's going to go into Sagittarius. I'm loving the moon hitting the South Node going into Sagittarius. That's going to be fun. I'm going to talk a lot about that for the next like year. Because you have to think, like, what are you holding on to that weighs so much? Again, the story and the narrative. Like, again, I think about that personal development thing. Like, I told myself, like, the stories and the narrative I held onto for so long because it validated my pain, it validated my suffering, and it validated everything I hated about myself, right? When I let that go and I moved on, I felt 100 times lighter. I felt like there was actually space to grow versus I felt like I was regressing versus I was progressing after that. And I look at this moon in Sag as, like, the thing that you're holding on to is the thing that's imprisoning you, right? Something I think a lot about is the tarot card of the devil and how the two people in the devil tarot card could easily get out of their chains, easily get out of their prison. It's a prison of choice. And I look at this moon in Sagittarius as like, what does it feel like to be free? What does it feel like to tell yourself a different narrative? What does it feel like to have hope? What does it feel like to see a bigger picture? The South Node's not in Sagittarius anymore. We have changed our beliefs about some things. We've had to do a little drain, and now we have an open, clean piece of paper to start a new narrative. And the thing is, this moon goes into Sagittarius after this, and we're going to keep having this throughout the year of moon going over the South Node, going into Sagittarius. It's going to be a releasing and a dumping and a seeing a bigger picture, letting go of shit and moving on and looking at, and again, it's just, you're going to feel lighter. You're going to feel more hopeful, and you're not going to realize, I remember one of my biggest breakthroughs of my entire life was during one of these personal development programs. I realized, I didn't know this, how much I was holding on to my grandpa's death and how much, I really blamed that on myself. I won't even go into that story, but and I didn't know it. It was all subconscious. And it wasn't until I realized that I was holding on to that pain and I let it go, I didn't realize how much it was holding me down. I didn't realize, you never realize how bad it is until you're on the other side of it. It's like a relationship. I hear people all the time, oh, it's okay that they do this. It's okay and then they get out of the relationship a year and they're like, wow, I can't believe I let myself get that bad. I can't believe I told myself that was okay. I'm in the middle of discovering things. I'm like, I can't believe I let that shit happen. I can't believe that was. And so I just look at this as like, when you're on the other side of it, your perception will change. And it's just about acknowledging what's holding you back, what's limiting you, and letting go of that shit. That moon goes into Sag, and I feel like there's a bigger sense of freedom. The other thing that's happening on Wednesday is Mars is going to sextile Neptune. Now, this is a highlight. I did make this a highlight for a reason because this is one of the bigger deals, but it's not really that big of a deal. I look at it as, let's rewind to, I think this was around November when Mars was in Scorpio trining Neptune. And when we talk about Neptune, we talk about the glitz and the glamour and the idealization and the romanticization of things and the deception too. There's a good and a bad side to it. I think there's a healthy dose of, skepticism and reality that you need to be in. And of course we have like Mars and Venus and Capricorn, everything in Aquarius too. So it's not like that's too hard to do. But Mars and Capricorn sextiling Neptune and Pisces is like, again, when you just do things according to the plan, when you just do the work, it works out. And I think that Mars sextile Neptune is like, wow, not only, Neptune's important too when it comes to creativity and having a vision, right? Like, yes, you do have to idealize or romanticize things to kind of have that bigger, like Jupiter asks us, for example, because Jupiter rules Pisces, Jupiter asks us to see the bigger thing, to see the bigger perspective, because that's what's going to give us that energy and that motivation to try to reach that ideal, right? And I think Mars and Capricorn sextiling Neptune and Pisces is just like knowing the action steps it takes to reach that ideal. It's a sextile. It's not like a trine where it's like Mars and Scorpio, like we're dedicated to this vision. It's like Mars and Capricorn sextiling Neptune, Pisces. Just keep doing the work and you're going to see exactly what you want to see. You keep being consistent. Mars and Capricorn, Venus and Capricorn. You listen to the rules that you've set, you play by the rules, and you'll see why, you'll see things work out the way that you want to. And I think Mars sextiling Neptune is a great day, I think, for the creatives, super good for the creative energy, super good for just kind of like, again, well, there's times where I've started a job and I hated it, but then once I actually kind of got used to it. For example, I used to DJ weddings and I used to think I knew the best way of doing something. And then I kind of, shut the fuck up and did what worked for other people. And I realized why it worked. And I think this is one of those things where you have to kind of I think you trying to control the whole situation may not always be in your favor, but you have to see what's working and why it's working. That's a big part of this whole Mars, Venus, and Capricorn thing anyway. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to Thursday. Gosh, I can't believe 30 minutes into this already. Thursday, this is the big day, really. And it's not, again, this isn't really that big of a week, but Moon's going to make apply to a sextile with Saturn pretty much all day long. But Mercury is going to be leaving shadow while also actually officially making that square to Uranus. And Venus will sextile Neptune, and the moon will square Neptune. So here's the thing. I could pretty much sum up this whole day in like a sentence, which I know I can fucking ramble, so that might be a lot to take to believe. But here's the thing. Also, Mercury, the moon in Sag will square Jupiter and Pisces, which we're going to talk about that once the moon squares Neptune. But this Mercury retrograde, this is what happened in the whole world. Everyone got COVID and everything stopped and got delayed a month pretty much. Like that was that whole Mercury in Aquarius essentially, plus the whole war stuff and all that nonsense. But the way that this is going to go is, everyone's plans totally got delayed that first month of January too. Like whether it was, because you got sick or because of other people getting sick, it threw off your plans. Mercury is going to square Uranus. Mercury never actually hit the exact square to Uranus the last time. I don't know if you guys knew that, but now that it's leaving shadow and squaring Uranus, like here's the thing. You're going to have to roll with the punches, right? Like this whole, again, even if COVID got solved and there was no more lockdowns, we're still going to have supply chain issues. We're still going to have, like, Mercury's going to be in Aquarius squaring Saturn. No matter what you do, you're going to have to roll with the punches. I think if we go back to when Mercury entered shadow, which was December 30th, like the last day of 2021, and we've had Mercury in shadow and retrograde all of January, pretty much all of February. We had a lot of back and forth, and there's still going to be an unexpected issue. You can, like for me, I was like going to start, being a new year, new me, working out more, eating healthy. And I got COVID and it just threw off my plans for 2 weeks, right? Which is, it's also my third house and sixth house of schedule and health. So it makes sense. And of course, that's not going to be for everybody. But I guarantee Mercury squaring, Uranus, you might be like, I'm going to wait for the right day and the right time. There's no right day and right time. Mercury's going to square Uranus, and there's still going to be, you're still going to have plans thrown up in your face. Things are still going to get changed. There's still going to be random things, and you just can't wait. Like, that's what's funny about electional astrology. A lot of electional astrology is not about when is the best time for something. It's like, when is the not worst time to do something? When is the, like, because for example, like I really hate when people are like, when is it not going to be bad? It's like, well, our job as human beings is to look for the bad because, we're just fucking, built that way. So rather than when is it not going to be bad, you're always going to be looking for the bad. How about you look for the good in that opportunity, right? Mercury squaring Uranus is like, I think if you're looking for the stability, I think if you're looking for the consistency and like, yes, this is going to go according to plan and this is how it is, and this is exactly how it is, it's just not. It's not how it is. You're going to be given more challenges, given more problems, especially Mercury when it comes to communication, plans. It's squaring Uranus. It's stuff out of your control. So I look at Thursday as Mercury leaving shadow. If you've had plans, if you had things go back and forth, just expect the unexpected. There's really no getting, it's with Saturn, Aquarius, Uranus, and Taurus, there's really no getting out of this like up and down stuff. Even once COVID's done and we get into 2023, even with Saturn still in Aquarius, we're still going to be dealing with the supply stuff going up and down. We're still going to be dealing with these issues, right? And I just think that's more of this. Anyway, the other thing is Venus sextiles Neptune. Now, again, it's Mars and Venus are still together sextiling Neptune. But there is this this is the other thing. It's okay if there's like Mars and Venus is just stick to the fucking plan. Like, well, for example, Mercury squaring Uranus is like if you are, well, for example, are you more committed to the goal or are you more committed to how you do it? For example, you have to ask yourself, if you get thrown an obstacle or a challenge, what are you more committed to? The way that you wanted to do things or the outcome that you wanted, right? The other day, here's a great, this may not be a great analogy, but my apartment gym, when I went to it the other morning, because I go like super early before the sun goes out, the lights weren't on and they're all automatic. There's like no light switches in there. So it was all dark. And that would have been a great roadblock for me to go, I don't need to work out today. The gym's dark. I don't know what to do. But I just said, okay, well, I'm more committed to my, daily practice in the morning that makes me feel good. So guess I'm working out in the dark. And I had fun. It was great. It was super cool. It was kind of funny because like I had to like be up and close because I didn't want to scare people that were also coming in. Just being this guy working out in the dark corner. But you have to ask yourself, like, you're going to get thrown challenges. Not everything's going to be perfect. And are you more dedicated to the outcome or are you more dedicated to the way that your expectation of things? Because that's the other thing with this Neptune stuff. There's a certain expectation around stuff. Now, this is a sextile, right? This isn't like our expectations are disappointing. It's not like our idealizations disappointing, but I do think we're going to be given challenges. And this Venus sextile Neptune is like, you got to get creative, go with the flow. What are you more dedicated to, right? Like Venus and Capricorn is like, well, Venus and Capricorn again is like that system, those rules, those boundaries, that tradition. And if you are more committed to that than you are, how things are supposed to look and how things are supposed to appear, you can have more fun with it. And Venus sextiling Neptune is kind of like, this is nice. This is looking good. So I don't know. I just look at Thursday. And then also too, the moon, I think the only thing on Thursday is the moon will be making a square to Jupiter and then make a square to Neptune later on. Where the hard part about it is, again, Sagittarius is very like, think big, think out there. This is what's next. This is what's great. Versus Pisces is getting in the internal and saying, this is enough for me right now. Sagittarius is all about that next corner, that next thing. Go, 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 go. Pisces is like, how can you create that right here in this moment? How can you create that inside of yourself? And I think as that moon is in Sag, squaring Jupiter and squaring Neptune, it's a challenge. You might be like, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be exciting. But you have to you have to create that. Well, again, I talked about this in one of my podcast episodes about purpose. Like, you're never going to love, if you have a dream job that you're working your way to, you are never going to love and appreciate that job if you don't love and appreciate the shit job that you have right now. That's the hardcore truth. You have to appreciate your job. You have to love your job. You have to be grateful for it and get the most out of it. Because if you don't do it with your shit job, because you're going to do it, trust me, there's a lot of people that want to be like even astrologers. And people just romanticize. Well, I mean, people romanticize everything, but like, it's not like this is always like don't get me wrong, it's a great job in a lot of ways, but there are also hard parts to this job that are very, very challenging. Try talking to people about their lives through a fucking pandemic and through economic devastation. But this moon in Sag is squaring Neptune. It's like you might realize, oh, the grass isn't greener on the other side. Oh, I do have to create it within. Because again, you might think it's this next thing, it's this next thing. It's not. This is the Jupiter and Pisces stuff. We have to be you have to create that internally. You have to be at peace. Like the things that you want, it's all in your head, right? You could say you want more money. You could say you want a relationship. You've got to create that internally first. And I think as the moon squares like that, you're going to kind of realize that where you're like, oh yeah. And then you go, oh shit, wait, I have to that's there versus this is now. And I think this is a great opportunity to take more action on things that are, again, do the things that are going to help you create that story and that narrative that are positive for you in this moment. But I think where you will get in trouble on Thursday is if your expectations are later down the road and they're not here in the moment now. Like, what are you, sure, you might be like, oh, I'm going to do this tomorrow, or, things will be better when this happens. It's like, what are you fucking doing today about it though? What are you doing in this moment to check your energy and to create that for yourself? And I just think it's this moon, there's no running away with Sag. What I love about Jupiter and Pisces and Neptune Pisces with moon and Sag placements is for example, the vision board thing. You can have your vision board all day long, but unless you're creating that feeling inside of yourself, I have a podcast. I kind of talk a little bit about my story. I'm not sure if I'm going to release it yet because I kind of talk a lot about stuff that I don't know if I want out there. But anyway, I kind of just talk a lot about visualization and manifestation. A lot of people just think, oh, I'm just going to manifest, whatever the fuck I want. And it's just kind of you can totally. It's the same thing with the vision board, but you have to feel that on the inside, right? You can't just say, oh, I'm going to have this great relationship. Everything's going to be awesome. You have to what does it feel like to be in that relationship? What does it feel like to be in the job that you want to do? What does it feel like to be living your purpose? And you have to have that feeling literally overwhelm your body. That is how, on a cellular level, you have to raise your frequency to attract that type of stuff. It's not just about looking at stuff. It's about feeling that. And I really think when we get to this, moon squaring Jupiter, moon squaring Neptune is you can dream and visualize, but unless you're feeling it and unless you're actively creating it in your life in that moment, it's just a dream. Really, it really is. We get into Friday, and really, I kind of like this weekend because nothing's going on. And I think maybe we could. Some people like when things are really active. Some people like when things aren't active. And I think will be a nice weekend where not a lot's going on. Let me explain. The moon will go through Sag. It'll square Neptune at the end of the evening on Thursday. So again, also too, you have to be open to what things can look like, right? for example, if you're trying to manifest something into your life, you have to be aware of when it comes into your life and how it can look, because it's not always going to look the way that you expected it to, because expectations are just premeditated judgments. So this moon squaring Neptune, as you go into Thursday night, going into Friday morning, be open-minded to how the path can look. Be open-minded to how what you want. Be open to how that can look. It may go against your expectations. But then as we get into Friday, the moon will ingress into Capricorn, where it's going to be pretty much the whole weekend. And this weekend's really about like this Mars and Venus stuff. That's what this is about. Moon's going to go into Capricorn, and I'm a broken record on this. Emotionally detaching, focusing on the work. Moon is in Capricorn. It's not the best time to be super emotional and touchy with your feelings, but separate yourself from those feelings and just do the work in general. Like, for example, well, again, you know, I'm not even that healthy of a person. So it's funny when I keep talking about the working out stuff, but this is what I'm going through in my life. And I can only really share with you guys my journey, what I'm learning. And there's times where I go like, I don't want to do this. Like, you know, I'm uncomfortable. But then if I just kind of get out of my zone, get out of my head and just kind of do it. Like, for example, the other day, I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to get up. I was comfortable. I didn't want to move, and I did it anyway. And there was this level of when I detached from how I felt and I just did the work anyway, that felt good. That didn't feel bad. I didn't regret that. I think I would have regretted staying more in my emotions. I think I would have regretted more being much more listening to my emotions, listening, be like, well, I don't feel this way. Well, I don't feel good. Well, we feel like shit all the time, and our emotions change from moment to moment. It's not about that, right? You have to kind of, again, Mars is also in Capricorn. Like, what's the plan? What's the vision? What are we doing here? And I think as the moon goes into Capricorn, all about executing this stuff. Here's the other thing. The moon's not even going to be making a lot of aspects as it goes through Capricorn. So let's actually just go through Saturday. Saturday, moon goes into Capricorn, and it will sextile. It won't even sextile Jupiter. That's kind of a lie. It'll just kind of sextile the sun. So really Saturday is just kind of like sun in Pisces. You know, you're pretty much just doing your thing. There's not a lot going on Saturday, to be honest with you. We'll just skip over. My bad. Friday, there's not a lot going on. Let's skip to Saturday, because with Saturday, as we get to Saturday, the moon will then make a trine to Uranus, right as it makes this sextile to Jupiter. Where again, that moon in Capricorn, you just got to detach. You just got to do the work. Again, well, it's like work, for example. Something I love about, well, something, especially this too. Back when I used to have a job, I loved, like when I would have a shitty day, it was like awesome. I get to go to work and focus literally on anything else but my shit life. Like, give me anything else to focus on besides what's going on in my personal life. That's Friday. This moon then sextiling Jupiter and trining Uranus. That moon trining Uranus is like doing something inventive, getting out of your own head, right? When you're kind of like in that creative flow zone and you're not really in your head about stuff, and you kind of let yourself try things new. I think that's what a lot of this is about. Moon trining Uranus, trying something new. It's sextiling Jupiter. It's kind of in the moment. You don't even think about it. Like, there's so many things I've done where I was like, hey, what if I just tried this? And then all of a sudden it totally changed everything. That's what a lot of Saturday looks like. But I think that comes through applying, right? We're all in this Capricorn stuff. This is like really applying the stuff that we've been changing and learning from, again, since fucking November. This is all of November, all of December, all of January, all of February. We're 4 months into this Venus and Capricorn stuff, guys. This is nothing new. We know what we're applying. We know what we're laying down. So then we get to Sunday, and that's really the last day of this week. It is every week, but and I made this a highlight, and I don't ever make lunar transits highlights really ever, because it's just a fucking moon. But the moon's going to be conjoining Venus, Mars, and Pluto right before it goes into Aquarius. Now, this is the last moon Mars Venus conjunction in Capricorn. Let's back up here. This is Sunday. Look at this: Moon, Pluto, Mars, Venus. Let me show you just next week real quick. Venus leaves shadow, Mars conjunct Pluto, Venus conjunct Pluto, new moon in Pisces, Mercury conjunct Saturn, Jupiter Cazimi, Mars enters Aquarius, Venus enters Aquarius. This Sunday is building up to that. And this moon hitting Venus and Mars and Pluto is this, like I said in the beginning of this horoscope, there's your montage of the movie, and then there's that 5 minutes of something happens before the climax. That's this. This is another breakthrough opportunity. This is a moon conjoining Mars, Venus, and Pluto, taking things to those extremes. God, like it's just I mean again I can only relate this to what I'm personally going through, and God I just think about like literally earlier today when I was working out, something clicked in me where I had to face like a personal trauma, and I didn't even realize it. It was like I had something else going on in my life that then, you know, led me to, oh, I have like, this is actually what the problem is. And I don't know, there was just something about facing it. And it wasn't even like I'm facing it, and I'm overcoming it, but this is like Moon, Mars, Pluto. It's like, well, for me, for example, I've never been healthy before, and I've never been healthy. I've always been overweight, or when I got out of high school, I was really underweight because I used to be a fucking cokehead and used to just sell plasma for fucking food money. So I was really underweight. I was really malnourished pretty much when I was like just getting out of high school. But other than that, I was always overweight. And then I gained all this weight, you know, once COVID started. And I've never, ever been healthy. I've never seen my body change. And I can't tell you how much it's fucking me up seeing some of the results I'm getting. I'm not even that ripped, not even that healthy still, but I'm down the path enough to go like, I'm starting to see the changes in myself, and it's triggering the childhood stuff. I look at this Pluto, like Mars and Venus are getting closer and closer to Pluto. We're getting closer and closer to that truth. We're getting closer and closer to those extreme moments. And that's how I felt today. It was like, this isn't even about me working out anymore. This has been about like, wow, like I can change, I can do things. And it's completely rewriting a narrative I've always had about myself. And I had no idea that that path was available to me. I've told myself that I told myself, the whole world told me. I was always bullied for being overweight. I was always bullied for that shit. And of course, you know, there's nothing worse than literally hating your own skin and hating your own body. Nothing. It just makes you literally want to kill yourself or harm yourself more, either through drugs or vices and shit like that. But there's I just look at this Pluto stuff again. I can only really share what I'm going through as a story. And the way I look at the moon hitting Pluto, Mars, and Venus is like, as we get closer and closer to this Mars, Venus, Pluto buildup, things are going to start feeling more and more real. Like, for example, you know, if it's really easy to check out in the moment of things, right? For example, if you've worked really hard for something and you're in the middle of that working hard, you're not really acknowledging where you've come from. Versus there's a moment where you do acknowledge, let's say you've been training for a basketball game your whole life, or you've been training for the basketball championships, and you work your ass off, you're progressing, you're going and going and going. It's not even going to be until, well, I don't know what day it'll be, whether it's, you know, you win a championship game, you win a playoff game, whatever it is. There's something where you kind of have a breakthrough moment and you go like, wow, like that paid off, that worked. And I see a lot of that as a lot of this Mars Venus stuff hitting this Pluto stuff. And this is this is Pluto, right? This is extremes. And I've told people Pluto's either that fear or that power. And for a lot of people, there's a lot of this fear that's building up. And it's the same fucking thing, right? Like fear and power are two different sides of the same coin. Are you going to let that fear narrative overwhelm you? Or are you going to step up to the plate and, you know, empower yourself? You know, it was different a couple months ago. Now we're at the end of February. And as we get into March, this is, you know, let's talk about next week. And, you know, kind of like my final thoughts on this is like, look, guys, there's not a lot going on this week, but let's look at next week. Venus leaves shadow. We have been doing the same dance for like 4 or 5 months now. With this Venus and Capricorn stuff, Mars will conjoin Pluto and Venus will conjoin Pluto. That's huge. After all this shit, new moon in Pisces, already like clearing out the energy. Mercury conjoins Saturn. Like this is also all, like pretty much all of this is happening on March 2nd, by the way. March 2nd, like I've said, I've been screaming this from the mountaintops that March 2nd is one of the biggest days of this year. Jupiter Cazimi, right? Jupiter being about, you know, abundance and hope, all of that stuff's getting refreshed. And then Mars and Venus enter Aquarius where we're on to something different. We're fucking on to something different at this point. We're on the outside. Where again, I've talked a lot about Aquarius is like you're either on the inside or you're on the outside. And at some point you're all going to be on the outside. But this Mars Venus, you know, as the moon, this is why I'm bringing this up, is this moon hits Mars and Venus and hits Pluto. that is going to be your buildup going into next week as Mars and Venus actually do hit Pluto. And so a lot of this week is just building up for next week. A lot of this week is just, hey, like lunar transits, being emotionally checked in. And then next week is really where, the show's got to, you got to perform. You got to do your thing. It's showtime next week. What have you been changing since November? What have you been like November, December, January? What have you been changing? What have you been doing? Then everything's going to go into Aquarius, where then it's really going to be about that consistency, that fixation, making sure you do that. And that's going to be a whole nother set of challenges. But those set of challenges are on the other side of this breakthrough that has to happen. And I think for a lot of people too, with Mars and Venus hitting Pluto, it's going to be easy to get overwhelmed by fear. It's going to be easy to get overwhelmed by, everything that's going on. But this Mars Venus, it's going to happen anyway, right? It's like scary movies. You can be scared of the jump scare scene, but it's going to happen. So just kind of let it happen. Surrender to it. Let it happen. It's okay, right? Something I keep trying to tell people too is we're going to eventually all life go. Well, for example, a lot of people just think that it's the end of the world. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things that are going wrong in this day and age, but life still is going to continue. When look back at any time in history when things were crazy, normal life still went on, and I think that's what a lot of this is kind of, in a sense of sure, we might have 10,000 things going on, but we still gotta what's gonna get us to the end of the road? What's gonna get us to tomorrow? Again, this is that Pisces stuff. When everything's in Capricorn and Aquarius, it's gonna be really easy to feel shut out. Well, let's talk about Aquarius. You're either on the inside of the walls and you're under this authoritarian regime, or you're on the outside of the walls and you gotta fend for yourself. You can be in that victim story of oh, well, it's this way and I'm out, so I don't have anything. Or you could step into this Jupiter and Pisces energy and just be you need to get your shit straight. You need to get your energy together, and you need to figure out how to get your shit together internally so you can continue on and to, build the things that you want to build, do the things that you want to do. Again, you could, all that sad shit. It's so easy to say, oh, the grass is greener on the other side, but what are you doing to create that greener grass within? And I think that's what, I know I'm talking really about this Pisces stuff, but when we talk about all this Capricorn and Aquarius stuff, things are so hard. That's so hardcore, right? Two most hardcore signs besides maybe Scorpio is both the Saturn ruled signs. It's you've got to be the one to believe in it, right? You've got to be the one that it's the same thing. People don't for example, leadership and management. Some people don't think that they'd ever be that, but sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. And that's what a lot of this is, and I don't like to say fake it till you make it. This is much more of and I've said this before, you don't actually have to believe in yourself to do anything. You just have to do it. You just have to do it. And I think a lot of this is doing it, and that belief of self comes within a little bit later. But anyway, that is my final thoughts for this week. I think this week is all of the build up to next week, and the next week is really fucking laying that law down and completely starting new next week. There's a lot of things that are going on next week that this week is, again, preparing you for. So anyway, I don't know. I don't have much else to say. This is a really long horoscope again. And I know you guys enjoy that, but I try to be respectful of your guys' time, because I really appreciate your time and your attention, watching my videos, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I really do. So with that being said, I guess that's what I got for you guys. So I'll be seeing you next week.